everyone. Welcome to July Speaker Series. It's great seeing everyone here this evening. For those that have not attended the Speaker Series in the past, Virgo Lab Speaker Series is a monthly event where founders and leaders share advice on how they go through challenges, capitalize on their target market, and develop their product, providing you with actionable insight for your own products and processes. For more information, you can find us online at Virgo Labs under our Speaker Series tab. I'd like to thank our sponsors for this evening's conversation. This free event is presented by Virgo Labs and is sponsored by the Harold Alphon Institute for Business Innovation at Thomas College, Valley Beverage, and Bricks Co-working and Innovation Space. In addition, this conversation is being recorded and will be available for viewing at a later date. This evening's conversation is presented by Omnic Data with CEO and co-founder Shaun Meredith. In this speaker series, Shaun will discuss an artificial intelligence platform that analyzes esports player performance to take gaming to a new improved level. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Shaun.
You bet. Thanks everyone for coming out on a hot day. Just saying how nice it is to see the sun, but at the same token, that wish we're a little cooler. As Sabrina mentioned, I'm Shaun Meredith. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Omnic Data. We're a Maine-based company located right in Brunswick, and we started in about 2019. And as Sabrina mentioned, what we do is we work for player performance in esports. And so we help the world's 3.2 billion gamers activate their superpowers. And the idea is that gamers want to improve, especially in competitive titles like esports titles. And so what we're doing is basically helping them by analyzing their gameplay and then making recommendations on how they can play better and how they can improve their play style. And, it may just be to brag with friends. It may be to, get a collegiate scholarship, or maybe even go pro or semi-pro, or even win, the Overwatch League Cup. Esports has really been growing, especially over the last 4 years. It has slowed its growth a little bit, but it's still in double digits, between 15 and 20% year over year, depending on whose metrics you go by. But 15 to 20% is still pretty high growth. So what I'm going to walk through today is a little bit of kind of our story, how we got started, and then I'm going to go into a lot more of kind of maybe the technical aspects of what we do and how we do it. There is some stuff that is proprietary that I won't go into in too much detail, but I think you'll get a good overview, at a high level of what it takes to kind of put this stuff together. So first off, my background is very varied. I started off my college career at the Air Force Academy, slated to be a pilot. Didn't know if I wanted to be a pilot, so I left for a year and wound up going to MIT, and liked it there better. So I stayed at MIT. Became a fusion nuclear engineer, and then wound up going into the Navy on nuclear submarines. After I finished with nuclear submarines, I went back to grad school at MIT, did applied plasma physics research for a little while, got my master's, and then worked on my doctorate in product design and development, and specifically working on autonomous software agents that work on people's behalves. So this kind of comes into play, you'll see here in a little bit when I start talking about the approach that we're using. For those of you that then know, I did a few startups coming out of grad school there, kind of in the Boston area, and then wound up coming up to Maine and was in charge of the Maine Learning Technology Initiative, the laptop program that Senator King started, then governor, and ran that for Apple for the first 6.5 years. After that, decided to start my own software company, then did another startup, and now I'm on a startup again. So that lets you know I'm a little bit of a serial entrepreneur, and I thrive in that roller coaster arena of the ups and downs that are startup life. Not always the prettiest, but certainly exciting and fun, and I really love it. So Omnic Data, basically I've been watching the gaming industry for a long time, saying, this market is larger than both television and movies combined. And so there's got to be ways to make money there. But if you go into game development, that's a really hard way to make money. The reason being is it's just like producing a movie in some respects, because there's a large upfront capital that has to be expended. And then you make this game and you hope over the next 5 to 7 years while you're making the game that it will be popular once you actually release it. And you don't know what type of game people are going to be playing 5 to 7 years from now. It's really difficult to predict. So we kind of had this concept of looking for things that were in and around the gaming industry, and specifically looking for things that were, use that analogy during the gold rush, that were more the blue jeans and the pickaxes instead of actually mining the gold. And what happened is in 2018, you started to see esports taking on what I would say is a much more modern approach. They originally started it as just, kind of little organized activities that people did, or, got together and ran like a little tournament, and then built a team, and then the teams dissolved. In 2018, you started to see they actually got franchises, and you saw them adopting traditional sports models, just like the NFL or the NHL or Major League Baseball. And that was really interesting to me. So I contacted a longtime colleague that I worked with at Apple, and Chuck Goldman, who became my co-founder on this. And right away, he got it because his son went to UMass Amherst on a League of Legends scholarship. And so, he knew that, esports are growing. It's the sports of this next generation, and it's only getting bigger. There's only more and more gamers in the world. There's not less. And it doesn't look like it's going down anytime soon. So we had this idea, but we didn't really know anything about how we would do this or what we would look for. And so we literally got on the phone and called a bunch of coaches and got 5 to 10 minutes of some professional coaches' time and said, hey, how do you recruit players? What do you do? How do you pick who's on the team or look for the best performance? And the answers were shocking, because most of them were, well, we kind of know this guy, or, we met her at a PAX East conference. And so we asked her if she wanted to play on the team. And that's basically how they went about the recruiting. And yet here's players signing 10 and $20 million a year contracts. And that just seems, almost just so bizarre that, we were like, there's no way that they shouldn't be using Moneyball type techniques. And so that's what we did. We found a bunch of academic papers on how to measure performance in video games and started working on that kind of thing and moved from there. So we built up a working prototype and then started building kind of a team. And we got into Techstars at the Rube Institute in 2021. And that kind of propelled us forward. We were the first out of our cohort there to raise funding. We raised a little over 1.1 million. And we've been going gangbusters ever since. So now we are at actually, just as of this morning, we're at like 4,127 users, so a little over 4,000 users on our platform. We have monthly recurring revenue. It's not a lot right now, but it is growing, and it just keeps growing as people subscribe. And then we just closed a commercial contract with an international gaming arena named Belong, who has 300,000 members that we'll be bringing on the platform. And we'll be doing a revenue sharing agreement with them. And it works out quite nicely for us. We cover 2 games right now, Fortnite and Valorant. We are working feverishly on getting Overwatch out, and should be announcing that soon. So that's where we're headed. We have a great team, as I kind of mentioned. Myself, my co-founder, Chuck Goldman, also worked for Apple. He actually founded a company called Aperion that came out of Apple, that was the first enterprise app store, and raised 52 million from Kleiner Perkins and had a nice exit. Ironically, they sold it to BlackBerry. They did have a good exit. We have great advisors, Rich Miner, co-founder and CTO of Android, and Stephen Coltai, who was vice president of Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment. And they've been instrumental in, helping guide us. We have a great development team. They're all based here in Maine. It's been absolutely phenomenal, the amount of support we've gotten from the different Maine colleges and universities, providing top tier talent for us. And I'll give special props to the Rue Institute for the graduate students coming out with really good knowledge on data visualization and machine learning. That's really helped us a lot. So our solution, basically we call it the Omnic Forge, and it's the first AI-based player performance platform. And this is what kind of makes us unique, is the way we are analyzing gameplay is not by pulling data through a publisher's API. It's not by having human coaches like view the videos or people making comments or anything like that. We've actually trained an AI to watch the videos and extract different information. It's a little hard to see kind of in the slides, but you get the idea that it can pull your basic stats. It can see trends that are going up or down in your gameplay. We also pull what we call insights, and they're text-based information that tells you, for instance, you went through the south door on site A, you have an 85% chance of winning the match if you use the north door instead. So it tells you, go use the north door. You shouldn't be doing it at the south door. We have an aim analysis tool. This is a one of a kind. No one else has this. In this chart, every single dot is where an opponent was detected on the screen. If you see a pink one, you never targeted them. If you see a triangle, you targeted their head, circle their body, and it will tell you your time. If you roll over it, it'll actually tell you your time to target. So the professionals can see exactly how fast they were. Or if you see a large cluster up here, it means you're aiming down to the left. You need to keep your cursor just a little bit up and to the right. Those kinds of things. The Forge itself, we have several different components to make it up. We have the coaching engine, which we'll talk about kind of in some more detail. And we also have our gameplay analysis, which is really kind of the heart of it, where we're taking a bunch of data, assembling it, looking for trends, comparing to other players of like ability. And in fact, we take that combined with our combine metrics, and we actually form what we call plays like. And this is a really popular feature for us. If you get your game analyzed by us, it doesn't happen every time. It only happens when you exhibit those traits, but it will actually come up and tell you what professional you play like and recommend video of theirs that you can see to see how they play and how you can improve. And gamers absolutely love that, because the first time they get oh my gosh, I played like Fremont, they're amazed. We also have for kind of our enterprise tool, we have scouting reports that are in there. So now professional teams can actually look for the best players with certain traits that they're looking for. And so that's been really popular. This kind of gives you a little example of kind of how some of the AI analysis is happening. When we take a look at a game screen, it's recognizing players and their positions, their actions they're taking, whether they're running, crawling, crouching, those kinds of things, the types of damage that are done, how much time is left, the circle expanding or contracting, say in Fortnite, and then what equipment is actually equipped at any given time. And it's recognizing and pulling all of that in. And those are all factors that we bring into the gameplay. So this is what a lot of people, have asked is, so why do you use this AI-based approach? Doesn't this seem kind of like overkill? It really isn't. There are other companies that have come before us, and there's been carnage on the roadside. They are gone. There's still a couple that are around, but they're kind of limping along. And a lot of this has to do with the approaches that they're using. So for instance, a human approach, Gamer Sensei used humans, and that was just not scalable at a venture scale. Right? A human can only work so many hours a week to coach. You have to recruit both the coaches and the players and get them both on your platform. The coaching costs between $40 and $80 an hour, which meant a lot of gamers just weren't paying that much. Compared to our $8.99 a month for unlimited, that kind of seems, a little ridiculous. And then there's no try and buy, right? Like we actually offer a freemium platform, so you can use the tool for free and get a limited, results set. You can't do that when you have to pay the coach. Someone's got to pay, and it's just not going to work. Other companies have used this API approach, and one of the reasons it doesn't work well is there's no differentiation in the market. You're getting the same data as everybody else. And then the second part, which is really the bigger one, is you're subject to the game publishers. As an example, Riot, the publisher of Valorant, they have not given anyone API access since they bought AIM Labs about 9 months ago. So, do you mean all those people that build products on top of that? They have nowhere to get their data. Another one is network intercept, and this is a approach that was used by a company, Visor GG, and they made a little client application you ran on your computer, and then you launched the game from their client application, and it would intercept all the network traffic going through to the server. As soon as the publisher heard about that, they started banning anyone using it, because that could be a security hole or a cheat. It also, professionals just didn't like it because it affected performance. They don't want anything running on the machine. So by us doing all the AI processing in the cloud, that made more sense.
You must have more tailwinds on this issue these days. This is not new to you.
Yeah.
But this must be something that is much more clear through that prism. And I'm sure now investment, also with the new investment lens.
Yeah.
You also, what has that been like? This was probably something you had to coach along and discuss and strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. Well, actually, so it's really interesting when you talk about that from an investment approach, because what has been actually far more difficult than I thought as we work to raise a seed round here is we've encountered a lot of institutions that got burned by Gamer Sensei, because Gamer Sensei had like a total investment of almost 200 million before it died. And so they're all like, I don't know if I want to get into this coaching thing again. However, the ones that we have talked to, that we've been able to say, look, we're different. We solved all those problems. They've been super supportive, and they're like, wow, that actually makes sense. You have solved it. So it's pushing down those avenues.
That's awesome. Well, way to be ahead of the trend line too.
Yeah. The other reason circles back to when I said my background before. So I was a plasma physicist. So at MIT, I worked on two different plasma experiments there. One Alpha CMOD, which is working to be a fusion reactor. And then another one that was versatile toroidal facility, which actually more mimicked the ionosphere. Both of them are toroids, and we put plasma in. Does everyone here know kind of what plasma is, or what I'm talking about? It's a fourth state of matter. If you keep heating a gas up, it turns into plasma. That's what the sun's made out of, and that's why everything in there is roughly on the scale of 300 to 400 billion degrees. So you can't just stick a thermometer in if you want to take the temperature. It'll just vaporize. So what we wound up doing is we used a lot of computer vision techniques to watch the plasma from a distance and then predict what was going to happen with it. And so we wound up using a lot of those same things. So as the plasma discharges here and you get a little miniature sun inside, you can actually, by watching that and watching it really fast and making your algorithms so that they can collect the data very quickly and then like parse through it very quickly, you can actually make predictions on how that plasma is going to, in these cases, there's always how it's going to break apart. Hopefully someday it doesn't break apart, we get it so it just stays and generates a lot of power, but that's the way it is now. So the way the forge works is actually pretty simple to an end user. Okay. The end user is presented with three options. They can either upload a video, or they can put in a URL to say like one that's on YouTube or Google Drive or Amazon or whatever, like, and just put a URL to it. Or our preferred option, and the one we'll demo for you today, is they can stream. So a lot of today's gamers, if you go home and see your son or daughter playing, like even on a console, they can stream to Twitch or YouTube gaming. And so literally they stream their gameplay. If they stream their gameplay and they've connected their account with the Forge, we're just automatically analyzing every game that gets played. They don't have to do anything. And at the end of of each match, they get a notification or an email sent to them saying you have a new match analysis. Here's the results. Take a look. And then, as I kind of mentioned, in big blocks, the way this works is we upload that video, and then we take it through what we call our pre-processing engine. And our pre-processing engine is essentially a series of neural networks that actually takes a look at sections of the video just to see, did they upload a game or is this someone bathing their cat? Because we don't want to analyze someone bathing their cat. It's not going to come up with any results. So it will actually look and see what game they're playing. And if it's a game that we cover, it will actually start analyzing. And so it then hands off to a series of different neural networks that we have. How familiar are people with maybe some of the different machine learning techniques out there? A little bit. So like for object detection and classification, we wind up using YOLO models quite frequently, just because they're fast and efficient. And the reason it's called YOLO is you only look once and it actually works well. So we wind up using those. And when I say object detection and classification, that's where, once again, we're looking at the screen, and if we notice a particular hero on the screen, it will detect it, draw a box around it, and then hands it over to the classification engine, who then goes and says, who is this? Is it an opponent or an ally? What character are they playing? Okay, they're this character. Now, what skills and abilities do they actually have that are available to them? Maybe their ultimate isn't charged. Maybe their ultimate is charged. Maybe they're out of ammo. Maybe they have plenty of ammo, those kinds of things. Then we have an OCR engine. And this one is very cleverly done, actually. I'll give credit to one of our junior engineers that came in and quite quickly figured out that, instead of having like our own OCR engine, there's some really good ones out there that can recognize text very well. Like, for instance, Google has a fantastic one. The thing is, Google charges you by API call. So every time you make a call, you get charged a fraction of a cent. Well, our young, clever engineer figured out that essentially he could basically take a whole bunch of these bits of text, place them together in a big image, and then he just kept going to see what the biggest size was. And then we send that, and then we get that back all analyzed, and we have a mapping that picks out, okay, this piece here goes to this piece here goes to this. And so suddenly we could do, instead of like just one word on one frame of video, we could do something like 600 frames of video all at once. So a good cost savings for us.
Do you pick, like, if you see it in one frame, you skip it over next frame?
Yeah, there are times, yeah, like once we've detected something with a certain level of certainty, then we don't try to redetect it because we know what's going on. And then we have a bunch of specialty CNNs. And these specialty CNNs, they are specially trained neural networks that are looking for particular aspects of gameplay. So to relay it back, for those of you like know, basketball or football, there's plays that are called by a coach. Esports has the same kind of thing. There's things where they know, they call it poke if you're just sitting at a distance and damaging your opponent's team. And once you have enough poke damage, then you might initiate a team fight by collapsing in on the opponents or something like that. So we've worked with professional coaches and professional players to say, these are key moments or key elements you want to look for. And so then we've trained special neural networks just to look for those key moments and be able to pull those insights out. Okay. Then we have post-processing. So all of these are churning away and they're spitting out data, but sometimes we have to combine that data together so that it starts to make some sense. So post-processing then gathers all that together and says, okay, big picture wise, here's what's happening. This came up with this at this timestamp, this came up with this timestamp, and it starts to reconstruct the game. And then from there, we send it over to our front end, which does a database insertion for us. And then we have a comparison engine that runs. And that comparison engine is looking at things, like I mentioned earlier, like for a plays like, it's looking for thumbprints and saying, what kind of player are you? Who do you look like? It also does things like telling you you're in the 44th percentile, of the community, that kind of thing on certain actions. And so these things just kind of continually churn away. And then once that comparison engine is done, we send a notification to the user saying, hey, your match is complete, your analysis is complete, come take a look. If maybe at the end, if we have some time, I'll run it in the background. We do have a technology demo that we've done. There is no technical reason why this can't run in real time. We don't do it in real time. Once again, to respect the publishers, we don't want to be seen as a cheat to have somebody, but we do have a technology demo running in real time where we actually use some generative AI as well, so that the Forge, as it's giving you advice, is speaking with the voice of a hero in the game to you. So it's kind of neat. You can train it that way and have it just tell you what's going on.
The dog code.
That's what's interesting. It runs completely outside the game. So
You get your results or something like that.
how soon?
Yeah.
So it depends on the game type. But so for Valorant, let's say most of those matches are 20 to 40 minutes. You'll get your results in usually between 30 seconds and 2 minutes. Yeah. So it's usually while you're queuing up for the next game. Yeah. Quite quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to try a live demo. I know never try live demos because they don't always work. But once again, since this is in production, we're not as worried about it. What I'm going to do here is bring up I've got the Forge loaded here, and we've actually got a guy in our office right now, Kevin. He's our business development guy, and he's actually playing a game right now on Twitch. So he's been streaming this entire time I've been talking. And in fact, if we go back here to his page, we can see here that it just detected a new Twitch stream and it started to analyze his matches. Okay. What we'll probably do is go through a match that's already analyzed, but while we're kind of going through it here a little bit, you'll probably see one pop in as it gets finished. At least I hope. I don't know if he's in one of those 40-minute matches. It might take a while. But here we are on kind of the Forge dashboard, and what happens is this is the last match that he played, and these are the two previous matches. You get a digital player card that actually has your picture, your character, the map that you were on, all your stats from that match, and you can share these out on social media. And it's kind of a neat thing to be able to brag and say, look, I don't know, I had 3 headshots, he had none, that kind of thing. And of course, this is a nice one to see 1. In addition, this is what we call our combine stats, and you can click in here, and literally these are like little mini games that you can go through to test different aspects of your targeting, your twitch, which is your reaction time. And I think I'll do one here, but I'm not going to save it because I don't want to mess up his account. He's really proud of his Twitch speed since he's in the 100th percentile. I think he was cheating, but so you'll see here, especially on the trackpad, I'll be terrible, but I hit start, there you go. So, all I had to do was, click on that as soon as that color changed, and I'm in the 27th percentile. See if we can do better. There you go, 56th percentile, just being a little plastic. All right. Back here on the dashboard, if you scroll down a little bit, you're going to see we let this is that plays like. So he's actually had a plays like in the past, and we always put your last plays like on that dashboard page. So he plays like Malibuca, and we got a link so that he can view Malibuca's play style on Twitch and learn a little bit more. Then we have some coaching insights that are like kind of the most recent ones. And then we have a bunch of charts and graphs, but I'm actually going to click here and go into our match details a little bit more so you can see those. So here you can see his career averages and how his eliminations have been going down and his deaths have been going up. Not necessarily the best trend probably, but we'll talk about this in a second. We have an interesting tool, and it turns out with Kevin's play style, none of that actually matters. His team will win more if he does one particular thing. And so that's what he's been focused on, which is kind of cool. Once again, you can see here his targeting efficiency ratio is 48%, which is actually quite high. It's been going up. And if we take a look here and roll over, we can see his time to target there was 400 milliseconds. So it appeared on the screen, this close to his crosshair, it took him 400 milliseconds to get over and target that opponent's head. We also have pre-aim, which he is actually very good at, 81%. So you can see the cluster that's right in the middle. So he is really good at knowing where on the map to stand and what angles to cover, so that as opponents come out of around corners or from a hallway or whatever, he knows exactly where they're at and is pre-aimed there. You'll notice here it said on bind, when attacking site A, you died around U-Haul multiple times, fight for the back of the site, and showers instead, preventing U-Haul opponents from having an impact on the round. So right there, it's told him, this is something he did on that map that he shouldn't be doing. One of the things that's really nice is you can help train the AI just by giving a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So if you like that, that's good. Or if you thought it was not a very good suggestion, it'll now provide you with less of those. In addition, this is where we have tons of data about, you name it. This is like the data nerd stream to be able to go through all this stuff. Likewise, in here, we have a timeline of events, and you can see here, as I roll through, down below, you can see what characters were live, what characters were eliminated during that round, and things like eliminations that you had, planting the spike. These red lines are anytime that you were in a team fight or an engagement, those kinds of things. So giving people a lot of information about that, as well as when their abilities were charged and ready to be used, and if they should have used them or not. Those kinds of things. In addition, we have all sorts of match statistics. So that you can see, for instance, the average time to a loss was 1 minute and 11 seconds in a round. You can also see that his win rate on rounds is 53%, and his attacker rounds, he's more likely to win. He's 58-33 on defenders. Likewise, you can see for all your maps and with what weapon you're using, and if you got a first blood, what your win rate is, so on and so forth. So you can dive really deep into that stuff. In fact, if we look here, I can go into this analysis, and this is where it gets really interesting. So we've looked at all of his gameplay and taken a look at all these different attributes, such as eliminations, deaths, so on and so forth. And it turns out right here, wall bangs is the thing that makes him the most effective. And so the more wall bangs he does in a game, the more likely his team is to win. And that's really interesting, at least when he's on offense. When he's on defense, yeah, still wall bangs. For a while there, it was assists, and he learned that he didn't actually need to get an elimination. All he had to do was help his teammates by getting an assist and doing a little bit of damage. Backing at him.
Is there any like projection on like players using this data and what scaling their improvement, almost like how are they viraling up, if you will?
Yeah, so we've done a case study on the Fortnite side, and over a 3-month period with about 1,400 people using it for Fortnite gameplay, we actually saw huge gains. So on average, the players at the end of the period were taking 36% less damage, and their healing efficiency was 101% better. So we have really good metrics, and even people that didn't use the Forge that much still had modest gains of like 5 and 10%. So
if you were to apply that to like traditional sports, that would be a huge game changer.
yes,
Everybody would adopt that.
yes. In fact, that's it. So we have we worked with a professional team, San Francisco Shock, their owner, and he's the head of the Esports Coaches Association. He gave us a great quote, I think it's on our website, that basically 20 out of 20 teams in the league are going to have to use this, because once it starts, it's like Moneyball. It's really is. All right.
While the player is playing in real time, can they get pointers?
So that's that technology demo I'll show. Like I said, we haven't done that because the publishers can view that as a cheat, because you're getting more information than somebody else can get, right? So,
I think if you had an earbud in, you can tell you.
and that's what our technology demo does. Yep.
that.
Yeah. So our approach when we go to do this each time, right, is actually, a pretty straightforward model. We determine what games we're going to go after, and we do that by looking at, market size, prize pools, just basically what are the biggest games out there, and how effective our tool would be at helping someone get better. So, like as I mentioned, Overwatch 2 is our next game, probably followed shortly by Rocket League, if for any of you that play Rocket League, and then after that, probably Super Smash Brothers. And in fact, I kind of know that because, like I said, we have a bunch of interns right now, and they're already working training models over the summer, and we'll have the top 10 esports with the basic training in by the time they get done at the end of the summer. So
They're doing classification.
yeah, they're doing labeling and stuff. I'll show you a little bit of what they do. Yep. And from there, we look for reinforcement learning overlaps. For example, one of the reasons when we moved from Fortnite to Valorant is it was much easier for us to make that move very quickly, because some of our models that we'd already generated, we could use as reinforcement learning models in the new training set, because both have humanoid heroes, right? Going to Rocket League is a little harder because it's cars. And, we didn't have a physics model yet for the cars, necessarily. From there, we sourced the video, and it takes a lot of video to do this training. I'm sure this is something you've heard like lately, just with Chat GPT and everything else, where people are talking about, well, wait, they're taking other people's information and training their models on. So we're cognizant of that. We do take publicly available video. So if someone is streamed and made it publicly available, that we have trained models on that. However, we really work through partnerships that we have with some of the professional players and teams to get their gameplay. And then that way, it's just exclusive above the board, and they know that we're training on their stuff. And in return, they get first access to our stuff. Then from there, we label the data, and that's what our interns have been working really hard on. Primarily is labeling the data, and then taking some of those custom models that we create for each game, and they're doing the basic training with them as well, which is really, it's really cool because you see these students come in that are very bright, and they're like, oh, we're just gonna like label data, and you're like, no, you'll get a little further, but that's the first step. Then after you've done that, now you're gonna get to start playing with the hyperparameters, tweaking the training sets and stuff like that. And then we train and evaluate those models, and then we reinforce them, and then we train and evaluate them again. One of the things we do a lot of, if you've heard of GANs or generative adversarial networks, we do a similar process where we'll take, maybe we have, just going to use this as an example, but let's say we have 1,000 hours of training data for a particular character or a particular hero. Then what we might do is take and run a generative adversarial on it, so it creates data from that data and negative data as well, and then we throw that back into the training set.
Is the adversarial just exactly the opposite of what?
Yeah, it's trying to fool your neural network. And so that's what you do, is you use it to help make your neural network get better. It's kind of like making them battle each other.
You ever think about using it for other instances besides the analytics layer? Say, like, let's say the publisher is running something and everyone's sort of that metaverse playing together as a way of recognize activities. Is that the place we go?
Yeah, there's definitely some work in that area. What I would say is it's more around helping advertisers to know where to advertise in games. But yeah, there's been some work there. So, basically, our architecture is fairly simple from a high level, but you're going to see this from any kind of software startup. They're going to use kind of these same principles, because if you want to be able to scale, you're going to need to plan for that in advance. And so our front end, we use Nginx as kind of our web server. I think last I saw, that's now up to 70 or 80% of the web is Nginx now. We use Passenger Fusion as kind of the app server part of that pairs with Nginx, and then that runs a Ruby on Rails web app for the front end. And we talk to a Postgres database. The reason we picked Postgres is because it is, one, well-known. People know how to work with it. It's been around a long time. It's pretty scalable. It's a good place to start. Two, the more modern versions of Postgres have, even though it's a relational database, they have some really unique, it has some really unique properties now with a no SQL component that you can do. They call them the JSON B fields. And so we're able to kind of combine the best of both worlds that way. And it's been really nice. Back-end wise, it's Python microservices. We're using Terraform We can, scale up or bring up, new instances and then scale them down as needed, which is great for cost savings. One of the things as we look on this, we've been using a lot of cloud backend. So we've done AWS and Google Cloud. In the future, we may be looking at our own data center or our own backend because, quite frankly, the cloud services, whereas they're great and responsive, when you're dealing with GPU compute, they're expensive, and you can actually probably run it much cheaper on your own hardware in the long run.
You're suggesting you have to build your own data center?
We might have to do we just drive costs back down. Yeah, which would be really interesting. One of the things that I think is really interesting with this is, and the reason is because the cloud platforms they're using, a lot of them are using NVIDIA's enterprise class GPUs, which don't get me wrong, they're great. But what's really interesting is the modern day just consumer GPUs that you get are just as fast, and they're like a sixth the cost. And yes, they aren't guaranteed to run for like 5 years, but if they're a sixth the cost, if they die in 3, well, guess what? The new consumer one is going to be out, and it's probably even faster. We just buy that and plug it in. It's a really interesting kind of dilemma. We use Docker. The thing that is really nice is because we are cloud agnostic, we can move back and forth between them by using Docker and Terraform. And I say even optimize. So what we've done as well to be that we're pretty proud of is since Twitch is owned by Amazon, if someone is streaming on Twitch, we analyze their stuff on the AWS cloud, and so we don't have to pay data transfer fees because the data is already there. Likewise, at YouTube and Google, we don't have to pay, so we process the YouTube stuff on Google Cloud, and that's a huge cost savings for us. In the future, we're probably going to move to having our own video ingest servers, and so kind of running like a Twitch-like service. And the reason is because right now we have spent quite a bit of time working with some streamers. They put overlays on and stuff to, as kind of their branding as they're, streaming to the general public. And some of those overlays hide things or cause problems or false detections. And so if we had our own ingest server, they could still stream to Twitch, but at the same time, they could stream to us without the overlays. And also what we found is several of the professional teams, they don't want to stream their scrimmages publicly. They only want to do it privately. And like I said, so right now what they do is they usually take a URL and paste it in, and that's how we analyze their stuff. But it would be easier if they could just say, oh, let's just stream it to the Forge while we're playing. Someone asked a little bit earlier about like the labeling. So literally, if you're familiar with CBAT, great tool. Intel came up with it. We've been using it. When we first started with the prototype, this thing didn't exist. The very first parts, I had to do all this by hand. And now it's great that there's this little web-based tool. We can let an intern, basically, we have a process document that they can go through, and there's a thing in CBAT called tasks, and we can create tasks for them, assign them to them, and they go down through, and literally you can see here, they draw boxes on things and then drop tags in and sit there and just label things and just go. And it's pretty quick. It's been, like I said, it's been really interesting, watching them as they, like listen to podcasts while they're tagging, those kinds of things. And anyway, and then for those of you that aren't as familiar with kind of how deep learning type stuff works, basically what we're doing is we take this whole set of data. That's kind of what we call like our entire data set. We take a small portion of it, and that becomes our training set. And then we have another set that's a testing set. And so you train on one, then you test on the other, then you run it on the real world. And then you iterate back through and you move back and you just keep doing that until you bring your percentage confidence levels high enough that you're like, okay, with 98% accuracy, we can get this now. That kind of thing.
What's the, what is it, what's the broad volume you see training?
What's the broad?
Like, yeah, like how many videos are in that?
Oh, yeah, a lot. I think now in the last year, we've trained on, I want to say just a little over 57,000 hours of video. So, yeah. This is what's interesting is I think in today's technology world, this is where it makes it hard for people to catch up with you. You've got the models, and that's kind of becomes your intellectual property. Other people have to spend that much time or more.
Well, that's what they would
To
do
get
with
those
natural
models.
language protocol, right? People were just listening to words.
Yeah,
Typing it that way.
yeah.
Well, very recently, I think.
That's what I mean, like, and so that's why, like, those people that have those models, they, no one's gonna generate a brand new model right away. They'll get it, maybe with quantum computing, they can, something, but not right now. And that's what I have for you. This is the Forge. Like I said, we're super excited. We're working right now on raising a seed round. Hopefully we close it soon and we can, get back my focus to 100% on the company instead of raising the money for 100% and the company 100%. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Blown away on the budget size of gaming, and that's somewhat aware of it, and we have some e-gaming, of course, in the community. And I think that's a really good strategic play for the economy, but also within the space. But if we were to put, say, that market size in a pie graph, where would the kind of big whales like Microsoft and Sony, for example, be? And like how much of those big whales are taking up that market size, and then where do you, if you feel comfortable in stepping up?
Yeah, no, yeah, so it's interesting because if you look at kind of just the market size in dollars, right? The estimates that I've seen are between like 216 billion and 300 billion, right? And most of those are the publishers. However, what we've kind of done is taken this approach that if you look at traditional sports coaching, that is a $10 billion a year market. And that's with 465 million participants. With what we call like our competitive kind of gamer, right, that we're kind of targeting, of the 3.2, that's about 1.8 billion. So if it's roughly 3 times that, then we think basically esports coaching will be about a $30 billion market. What's really interesting is that's what you're going to see is a lot of our focus is going to be on going international and going quick. I didn't really talk about it, but we have internationalization built into our platform already. So all we have to do is translate for different languages. And then we're in talks right now with some different people on how to like quickly bring it to the Asia Pacific market. Once we launch Overwatch, Valorant and Fortnite aren't big there. In fact, like in China, they can't play them, but they can play Overwatch.
So that would be like a mature market, I assume. Are you targeting emerging markets?
Yeah, as well. Like, so yeah, places like, Vietnam, Thailand, stuff like that as well. Yeah, it's definitely, it's really interesting because right now, for instance, in South Korea, if a family has a student and say he or she exhibits like some sort of expertise in a particular video game, just like we would hire a math tutor or something for a student, they hire coaches and they're paying $90 to $100 an hour after school for those coaches to come over and help them. because it's that big there. Pre-COVID, my wife went to China for a trip, and it was really funny because she got off the plane in Beijing, and you know, just like here, you used to get off the plane and see, well, not anymore, but you see Tom Brady or something, right? Like right there prominently in the airport. She snapped a picture, she said, I can't believe it. And it was an esports star. And I was like, I told you. It's coming. And it really is.
Which school in the US has the most successful esports team?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Right now, I think there's a small school in Maryland that won like the biggest tournaments this last year, like 3 of them. So that was kind of a dark horse. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania has a small college that also has a really good team. And then there's a community college in Texas that has a really good team. And in fact, actually, even here, Central Maine Community College actually has one of the better teams in like League of Legends. They aren't quite, you know, they aren't quite in the top 10, but they're really close. Yeah, that's why it's really interesting. Teams can pop up anywhere. I think part of that is you look at like basketball, and it's the same kind of thing where even a small school can have a really good team because you need just a few star players. And I think it's a really interesting concept. So as school getting started, here, I think, yeah, we've talked before, right? Like, instead of having a football program, we've got to build this huge stadium and everything, and equipment, and have all these players. You're better off just building an esports like facility and letting your team kind of, organically grow.
Now, MIT has one of the best game development programs in the country, right? Do you ever collaborate with them in any way?
No, we haven't yet. Honestly, we've just been flat out just trying to just trying to run as fast as we can right now. There's all sorts of things that we do want to do and reach out. And it is interesting. I talked to the director of athletics for Northeastern a few weeks ago, and he said he was absolutely blown away. They had their big awards dinner that they have where all the athletes come together and stuff like that. And their most respected award, right, for like, usually goes like captain of the football team, the basketball team, or something like that. Wound up going to captain of the esports team. And like he said, everybody stood up and cheered. He's like, there's all these athletic looking people there, and then this scrawny looking little kid, wound up and accepted the trophy. He thought that was great. So.
Do you ever foresee like any of these pro leagues ever see, use of data like this is like an unfair advantage for any of that? You ever see something like that impacting it where it's like they would be limited?
No, because they all hire their own analysts and stuff right now anyway. We have kind of a compelling sales strategy for them because, for example, I won't say what team, but one of the teams that we were talking to just a couple of weeks ago, their head coach was like, wait. So you're automatically like recording like all these headshots and the body shots and stuff. He has one analyst that's all he does is watch the video, and he's got a piece of paper or a tablet, and he's like body shot, headshot, body shot, headshot. And he's like, that would actually free up an analyst to actually do some analysis instead of.
Does the platform ever recognize any lag time between different systems? So say if a player is playing in a rural area or they don't have access to a good bandwidth, does it recognize when there may be a delay in their actual gameplay?
It's a good question. It does. It's not trained to look for that per se, but it is a side effect that we've seen. So what happens is you wind up having server sync issues, right? So like, you'll see a player that has a bad connection on your screen. You might see them going this way, and what they've already done is they've already turned and they've gone this way. And so you see all of a sudden the players going this way and then all of a sudden they're over here. And so we do catch that because it makes our AI go, wait, what just happened? Like, you're not supposed to do that, you know, so. You do see a little.
Not to go like Black Mirror on this, and that's not my intent, but there seems to be other industry applicability here, not limited to defense, military, strategic, securities.
Yeah.
How much does that go on back here now?
You know, I can't say we haven't been approached, because we have. You know, it's just one of those things that I'm really focused on. I don't want to build like, you know, I want to build a company that's fun and for entertainment. And, you know, one of the things that I say that, you know, to the team all the time is, you know, what's great is if our AI makes a mistake, it's just, you know, oh, it didn't recognize, you know, some particular aspect of that. It's not like a self-driving car where it could kill somebody. So, do you know what I mean? I'm like, I kind of like those lower table stakes in that respect.
How far are we from fantasy esports, like fantasy football?
Oh, they're there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we've been talking to DraftKings. They already do, you know, betting on esports. There's a platform called Kick now, which is a competitor to Twitch. And they're completely funded by stake.com, which is a gambling site. So like that is all real. And yeah. That's why, like I said, it's really interesting because other sports had time to develop and grow up. Esports, you know, they're only all that's being condensed down into like a 10-year window, right? And they've got to like quickly get to I don't know if see same thing, like it's probably not mainstream enough that you guys would have noticed in the news, but like the League of Legends top tier players went on strike because the publisher told when people bought their franchises, they had to have a tier 2 farm team and a tier 1 team. And because of COVID and some of the stuff, they said you don't have to have the tier 2 teams anymore. So all those teams let those players loose. And so the tier 1 players all went on strike because they're like, you can't just fire all these people. So very interesting.
Have you found particular challenges because you chose to launch in Maine versus California?
Definitely. It's definitely a challenge. You know, I wish it weren't true, but I think a lot of West Coast VCs just aren't even going to look at a company like ours because they get so many ideas that come in, you know, their doors every day that are from companies that are local to them. So it's just not worth them going, how could all these people from Maine come up with this, even though we know innovation can hit anywhere. Yeah.
I just wonder, like, right now you mentioned like this platform basically analyze like 2 things. What if like there's like a very small group of people who want to analyze their videos for like a particular game, but like the pool, I would say, is not as big as you expected. Would you like serve the?
Yeah, so no, it's a really good question. So, you know, right now, because we're small, right, and just, you know, scrappy startup, we're really focused on getting those top 10 esports titles. But the eventual goal for the company is I want gamers to be able to get better in any game they want to play. And so, you know, the idea is to start to have plans where we can maybe like essentially give hooks to people to our tools so that, you know, if they want to train on a particular game, you know, we give them like a front end and they can train a model, you know, and do it on their own, you know, kind of thing, and then run it on their own machines or something like that.
So you kind of have like a generic AI model for like all kinds of things.
Yeah, that's it. So we, like I said, we have a whole bunch of different ones. Some are more generic, some are more specialized. And so what we do is have to figure out how to classify which ones we want to give people access to. Those kinds of things. I think a great example of that is like I said, like if you look at YOLO, it's just an object detector, model basically. And it's available, anyone can use it, and it's really good if you want to show it a picture of an apple or an orange or something like that. It'll just auto classify that. Do you know what I mean? And so we kind of want to be able to do the same thing and say, yeah, here's one that recognizes a humanoid, character running, crouching, swimming, whatever.
So do you think like Forge will eventually like be implemented in like consoles itself? Like I buy a console, like I want to play Fortnite, it could already be on there when I buy it, like eventually.
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to be able to work out deals like that. So just like they do now with like where you can connect your Twitch account or something like that, where you can just connect your Forge account and then you would just be sending us video to analyze. That'd be great.
Do you, just kind of in that vein, like with the Activision, Microsoft thing, now continuing through, do you think that's gonna be a better situation for you or worse, or does it not matter?
I think for us, it's not going to matter as much because once again, we've been really good at being publisher agnostic. Like we don't have to make any relationships with the publisher. And I think that's a strong position to be in. However, that being said, I do hope one of the future business models I want to be able to introduce is the fact that, let's say, you've used our platform to play Fortnite and Valorant. Well, Epic knows how you play Fortnite and Riot knows how you play Valorant. So we're not of any use there, but we have the data on how you play both games and they don't know how you play the other publisher's game. And so we'd love to be able to be the ones that can sell that. And the more roll up there is, the fewer customers we have that way.
Well, so, Microsoft gets their way, right, and we're moving this console experience, that be easier for you to access eventual training, or do you think Microsoft is going to be kind of like,
I don't know, right? This is that whole thing. The good thing is like, there really is no way for them to shut off video.
yeah,
Because, right, like, then you couldn't play the game. You just see a blank screen. So we know that we'll always have access to it. It's just how hard it might be.
Do you anticipate any like speed to market challenges that games can just go viral overnight? And people are gonna be asking you the ability to, like Warzone was huge immediately because of the pandemic, but that was insane. And people are gonna be asking.
Yeah, we do. That's why we really worked hard. So like I said, for this summer, to prep for getting these interns in that we knew we were going to have training, we really worked hard on basically streamlining a process for which we've been onboarding a new game. And with our company size of 10, right now, we can produce a new game in 10 to 12 weeks. I want to get to where we can do it in 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah. It has other repercussions because we've talked to independent game publishers. And as an example, if they have a game that gets very popular, they immediately get requests for an API for data pulls and stuff like that. But they're like, we're an indie studio, we don't have manpower or money to do that. And they quickly recognized that, but wait, if your platform is just looking at it, you could be that API and they can pull data from you. So we'd love to do that there.
Just a fun anecdote, I think on almost the undercurrent of how popular some of these games are, which I really had a blind spot for, but we have one of the leadership teams in one of our startups in cohort 2. One of the team members was like top in the world on Omnic. And they were kind of socializing with an ecosystem partner of ours. Somehow they found out that this person's handle or their call sign was this person. And they came in right away to visit us and were taking pictures with the startup entrepreneur, not with their startup company, Because world class on Rocket League, and they were like putting it on social media, and it's just like, holy cow.
So-
I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
So it's really funny. So we had an intern in Northeastern. She just finished up with us at the end of last month. So she was at the first half of the year. And anyway, same thing, like she's Chinese, and I knew she was super excited that she played this game. I think it's called Glory of Kings. It's not a big game here, but in China, it's a huge game. And that's it. So, literally, one day after work or whatever, she's like playing there or whatever. And, one of our other workers was like, wow, you're really good, like at this. And she's like, oh, thanks, and nothing much said of it. And then we learned like 2 days later, she's 9th in the world in that game. And she's got like, I don't know, she's got like 240,000 followers on a Chinese social network about gaming,
Well, it's just kind of funny, because we're trying to make introductions with an investor or a partnership or a potential legion, and I was doing this like, I've been asked to do this introduction, and writing a report a couple of weeks later, I'm like, I don't know where I put this in the data. Like one.
It's really
Instagram
hard.
post.
It's absolutely phenomenal. You bet.
What about games? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna ask, how would it deal with like cheats or like if a user like used to using a specific cheat code, would it like detect that they did it like, or like order would stop or?
Yeah, it will detect. We haven't chosen to do anything with it yet, but like we have, there's some funny things that we've been able to see in a couple of games, right? Which have been interesting. Yeah, it is interesting. If you guys want to see, I'll play this out. I don't know if sound will come through or not.
Check.
Okay. But this is our technical demo that I mentioned where we mashed together. So, hold on, let me see if I can get sound to come through. It's not gonna, I'll try to like, go over it a little bit.
That might work.
So these are different voices or different characters. We've only trained on 6 of them. But basically pick your voice. I don't think it's coming through at all now. Is it?
I have the audio online, so like when it plays online, they'll be able to hear it.
Anyway, so it won't be that impressive without the audio, but
Folks watching at home.
yeah, they'll get to hear it. Here, pause.
Action, turn it up.
Thanks.
You've got 4 or 5 voices on it trained. In this match, you're going to see the player is actually going to select Brimstone. And that is the character that you'll be playing. Brimstone will voice the forge's hints and insight and provide our player with some stats on his probability of win as he goes through the match. We really hope you enjoy this. You have a lot of fun making it, and we're excited to see where this goes in the future. Thank you. All right, so you have an old dog. Don't just have any certain Told me I made the right choice.
I see you playing a set. Go ahead. Your odds of winning are higher.
So that was the portage noticing the map and where he has a chance to win more.
Sit tight. Hold it. Have your team scout A.
It's told him to hold there, let his team go over to A.
Audience mic.
Down A.
Things are looking grim. Take it slow. Recover the spike. Odds of winning this are only 17%. Up, down.
Got the golf balls kind of.
You hold both the teams. If you rotate now, you've got a better chance of winning.
Last player standing.
You've still got your smokes. Use them to gain an advantage. Down. Hold backside, you'll have an 87% chance of winning.
There you go.
Congrats to win. Head over to the porch to see.
Brimstone, the best defense.
That's pretty.
There you go.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a really dumb question.
Yeah.
I gotta ask. Is this the only kind of game that college sports teams use? Kills and that, or like?
No, Rocket League is it's a soccer game with cars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can totally train the data. Cover those important points.
Yeah. Yeah. There's other ones that are like top-down maps with like, people casting spells and doing stuff like that, So, yeah, there's a whole mixture of different games. It tends to be that the top competitive ones wind up being first person and third person shooters like this. And I don't know, that's just a byproduct of, the way we are. Yeah, I don't know.
That's great.
Questions, anyone?
I just wonder, like, will most of your users are like the professional players or like more about like just how?
Actually, we have a huge mix, and it's funny because we get asked this question too, right? Like by VCs and stuff, okay, so what's your targeted demographic? And it's hard because when we answer, they're like, well, that's not very targeted. And we're like, yeah, we know. It's just the way it is. So basically, our users are generally between 14 and 40. Right now, they are predominantly male, about 70%. However, a lot of that has to do with Fortnite is a lot of male players. Valorant, as soon as we added Valorant, that's where we started to see female players really coming on. And it's because Valorant has done a good job. They have this whole separate tournament series called Game Changers. And they're really trying to push to have more female representation, which is great. And then we moved to Overwatch. They're almost perfect 50-50 split. So I'm sure we'll see more female. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
No, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for that awesome presentation. I don't play Fortnite, but I know plenty that definitely love to use this platform. So thank you to everyone for joining us. This presentation has been recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. This conversation is presented by Dirigo Labs and is sponsored by the Harold Alpine Institute for Business Innovation at Thomas College, Valley Beverage, and Bricks Co-working and Innovation Space. Thank you and have a great rest of your week.